Hey guys, Kurt Tuford here, Vice President of Sales Development here at DXP. And today I've got the opportunity to talk a little bit about mechanical seals and mechanical seal systems with Bruce McCartney. Bruce is the president of Pro Seal, one of the companies that DXP has acquired a few years ago. And the purpose of this is to talk a little bit about how you as a sales professional could utilize some of the phenomenal talent and services of Pro Seal. Bruce, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a background of Pro Seal?
Thank you for that, Kurt. My name is Bruce McCartney. I am the president of Pro Seal Service Group, a part of the DXP family of companies. Pro Seal came into, was originally started in October of 1987. We did that on the back of a buyout of a company that we worked at before. That was Anchor Packing. Myself and three other gentlemen started Pro Seal Service Group, and we've matured the company from the early days of being selling out of a box distribution company to being a full service provider distribution company, where we developed from mechanical seals into lubrication. We're also a pump company with a full pump service sector. We have a full line mechanical seal repair shop, and we are also a very experienced lubrication company. So three of the very, very main segments that are crucial to rotating equipment we're very good at. And I think that gives us a very unique position to be utilized within the DXP family. Just a little bit of history. Prior to my time in the Pro Seal system, I gave Uncle Sam 10 years from 1969 to 1978. And I was an EOD technician for that time. And although that probably doesn't seem translatable into mechanical seal work, our objective was to not blow things up. Still my objective. So well, that's Bruce McCartney and Pro Seal in 2025.
Excellent, Bruce, and thank you for your service. That is wonderful. You know, Bruce, we talked a little bit about Pro Seal being an expert company, 45 years working through mechanical seal systems, lubrication systems, and of course, mechanical seal failure. You touched on mechanical seal repair. Walk me through the purpose and the expertise that you have in repairing mechanical seals.
Big story. And I would say that the mechanical seal repair shop that we operate here at Pro Seal found its legs for the same reason we developed a seal support system, and that is it was very difficult to get a high level of mechanical seal repair support from the manufacturers. So necessity, she's the mother of invention. We took that need and began to develop it about 25-ish years ago. So we've run the mechanical seal shop about 25 years. We began it working on the most basic of seals, and even a cartridge seal at the time, 25 years ago, was kind of a prize to get into your shop. Now we gravitate more towards the very high-end mechanical seal, sealing systems to 3,000 PSI, the mechanical seal seeing 3,000 PSI. Large mixer seals is really one of our specialties, which is a very high end of mechanical seal repair. And it requires that you have a really strong understanding of the seal and of lubrication, because mixer seals almost always have an integral bearing that you have to lubricate and make sure that the bearing is not part of the failure mode.
So for a DXP sales professional who is specializing in rotating equipment, as they start talking to their customers about some of their mechanical seal failure, walk us through how that conversation could lead to Pro Seal getting the opportunity to repair that seal.
Right. Well, for one, you can start the process off by knowing some things about seal failure mode analysis yourself and be able to kind of start that process and that thought with the client. The next
Excellent.
phase, fire that seal off to us and we'll give you a bona fide report on what we feel contributed to that seal failure.
So with that report and with the expertise of being in this business for 45 years repairing mechanical seals, then you would have a strong indication of what could have caused that seal to fail.
Totally. Mechanical seals are incredible. They're a fragile component within the rotating equipment, but they leave a trail. Is it a bearing fault? Is it a pressure fault? Did it run dry? Was it potentially an inadequate system trying to support the mechanical seal? Those things become quite clear to us when we see them, after seeing the amount of seals we have over the years that we've done this.
Excellent. You know, Bruce, when I first met you, I came out here to do some training and I fell in love with what you are doing with these mechanical seal systems. You coined the term ECOSAVE,
Yeah.
and you guys are creating these Plan 54 packages. Could you kind of give us the history of how did ECOSAVE come into fruition?
It's almost the identical story to the seal repair capability. As we would encounter a need for a seal support system, we found that most of the manufacturers were ill-equipped to advise us and direct us on how to commission a proper system for in a given application. And then once you jumped that hurdle, if you did jump that hurdle, the time to acquire the system was always very lengthy. And I would say on average, we're talking 10 to 12 weeks. And here at Pro Seal, we aim to make that about a 2-week process from the initial contact to shipping a system out the door. So we greatly facilitate that. The other is, I guess because it was such a niche sort of component, the manufacturers decided that pricing was never an object. So they priced them to the moon and back. And we always found ourselves in a position like, I know I need this system, but that customer is not going to give me 50 grand to build it. And that's the price of acquisition in some cases. So we took those three things, which we feel are laws within our own sales proposition: give the customer what they need, do it quickly, do it for a fair price. We took those three elements and built the ECOSAVE program around that.
So the power of that, Bruce, is that our DXP sales pros who are out there trying to understand what might be the customer's need or the customer's want, and they could come to you through what you've said, subject matter experts,
Right.
lubrication experts, seal repair experts.
Right.
So the DXP sales pro has an extension of their knowledge using Pro Seal.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
And you know, you shared with me that there's been a lot of stories, a lot of awards. Could you walk me through this phenomenal award that you had as it relates to a refrigeration challenge and how you solved that?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good one. It's a unique story. And actually, this story begins about 2018. And Chrysler Corporation was still Chrysler Corporation. They had a brand new test facility built out here in Auburn Hills. They needed the test cell to be able to achieve temperatures of 130 plus in the test cell. And they needed the test cell to be able to reach temperatures of 90 below. So it required massive refrigeration compressors. And back at that time, the way you did that is you used these refrigeration compressors, and the refrigerant was R22. Okay, R22 40 years ago was no big deal. You could let the R22 vapors go into the environment and nobody cared. But come around to 2020 and even 2012, R22 became a really controlled substance, and Chrysler was evaluated, and their 6 compressors were allowed X amount of R22 consumption. If they went over it, they paid like 5X for the R22. It was a massive penalty. And they were losing R22 at a very fast pace, and they couldn't figure out where. Now, one of the places where it can leak is at the mechanical seal. But the mechanical seal has 2 jobs in a refrigeration compressor. Keep in the refrigerant, which most of the time they didn't even know if it did or not, and keep in the lubrication oil that the compressor utilizes to lubricate the lobes, the bearings, and the mechanical seal. So here's the thing they didn't understand. The 30-weight oil that lubricated the compressor left a very wide fluid film between the seal faces. The Freon became miscible in that lubrication oil. They were pouring Freon out right between the faces on a seal that appeared to have no leakage because it wasn't leaking oil.
Right.
So they never interpreted that as the problem. When they actually got up and tested, they discovered the Freon was just easily passing across the mechanical seal face. So with our experience in the chemical industry, we used some technology and also guidance from API to build a system that created a hydraulic barrier to prevent the Freon from getting out. It was completely new technology to refrigeration people, but what we did was we deployed a API Plan 54 before we actually coined our own name, ECOSAVE. We successfully sealed all of the Freon, virtually all. There was virtually 0 Freon leakage at the mechanical seal. They still experienced some leakage at valves and in other pipe joints and so forth. But the award that we received was an award of excellence, and it's called the Chrysler 5-Star Engineering Award. And we received that award for virtually eliminating the Freon loss in their system. Now, all of that's to say, a Plan 54 used to keep vapors in the pump is always a great strategy for recommending a Plan 54.
You bet.
And in that particular case, we were recognized, and we actually went to a forum in front of a major Chrysler audience and received our award.
That is, the best part of your story, Bruce, is that you saved the customer an enormous amount of money as it relates to the leaking of the refrigerant. And as we think about ECOSAVE, you are passionate about Plan 54s.
Right.
Now, there's been a lot of,
Can I say something else?
Yeah, sure.
Also had an impact on the ecology.
Absolutely. The ecosystem.
That part of what went into coining that name, by maintaining those vapors inside that compressor rather than letting them escape. That was really a big thing back around 2010 or so, the whole ozone hole and all that. And
absolutely.
Freon leakage was a big...
Yeah, the fluorocarbons were not being leaked out to atmosphere. So that was great.
Yeah.
The Plan 54, and I know that you come back to the Plan 54. And so DXP sales pros, as they're out there looking at applications, as they're talking to their customers, there seems to be a flavor of the month, the 53As and 53Bs, but a lot of the time, based on your 45 years of experience, these seal packages, these systems are misapplied, where they should be a Seal Plan 54. Walk us through what a salesperson should be looking for if they have a misapplied 53A or 53B.
Right. So I'll kind of start with API.
Okay.
If you go to the API 682 Edition 4 manual, it defines the purpose of the 53B primarily as a means of containing vapor and or potentially providing a wet run during a dry run, mistaken dry run of the pump. That's the extent of the recommendation for the 53B
Okay.
or 53A.
Okay.
So you don't have to go very long before you start finding 53As on aggressive slurries. Bad application, because the 53A has no way of polishing its own barrier fluid. So a little bit of containment is going to be ingested into the system, and it's pluggage. You're done. But you see lots of 53As applied in that application. One of the other reasons I think that the world went that way, there was a period of time when the 54 was one of those otherworldly expensive components. You were looking at 50 grand almost every time you looked at a 54. So people pushed that aside and went, we're not going to spend that kind of money, so we're going to make it work on a 53B or a 53A.
Got it.
Which ended up being a misapplication. And there brings you to another place where we endeavored to bring some logic to 54 pricing. And in many cases, our pricing is going to be 2/3 less than the OEM manufacturers.
With the type of products that we see behind us, these are these 54s that you create here at Pro Seal.
Yeah, no tariffs.
And no tariffs.
No tariffs.
It's all an American base. So we have a pricing infrastructure that is very competitive. If we have a DXP sales rep who is priced out of or priced against another competing company, we might be able to win the deal simply for the fact that our 54 will be customized. It'll be a little less price, probably faster delivery, and for the DXP person,
faster delivery,
higher margins to win the internal deal.
Yeah, and very open territories. We're a DXP possession. We're a DXP company. We'll provide this product to any DXP person, any DXP sales pro.
So for the DXP salesperson listening to this and watching this, Pro Seal is an extension of their expertise, if you will, another arrow in their quiver that they could use to further enhance the technical depth of DXP.
Right.
Wow.
Now, you also touched on we're willing to provide what the customer wants. In many cases, I have found even when the Plan 54 is properly specified, it's not really properly sized. And frequently you'll see the standard API Plan 54, 12-gallon, 10-gallon, in which case you really can't put 12 gallons in a 12-gallon. You can get about 9. The 10-gallon, you can get about 7. So now you have a fairly small volume, more than in a 53A, but still fairly small. We offer 2 standard systems, and we'll also custom make your tank every single time. Our standard system, the smallest one we make, is 15 gallons, which provides almost a 30% increase over what you find as standard. We don't charge you for that, but you get a larger volume barrier fluid, and from that you get a longer runtime on your barrier fluid. It slows down the oxidation process. It slows down the amount of time it spends in the danger zone at the mechanical seal face, because it's a longer trip to make that loop. So we get much longer barrier fluid life out of that arrangement. We build standard a 30-gallon system where there's more temperature involved or potentially more ingress contamination, so we want a larger volume. We'll build you a 50-gallon system, a 250-gallon system, and we're not structured in such a way that encumbers us. We're very accustomed to making custom requirements for our clients.
And that customization, Bruce, is not necessarily what our current seal manufacturers are providing.
No.
Okay.
You got here's our system. You want a Plan 54, you get this one or this one.
Okay.
And you have to fit into that envelope.
And so walk me through some of the applications that a Plan 54 would be a perfect sweet spot that may be misapplied right now with the 53B.
Sure. Mixture seals.
Mixer seals, okay?
Why do you think mixer seals?
You'll tell me.
I will.
Yeah.
Because they're slow. A slow pump, a slow rotating piece of rotating equipment can't function a pumping scroll. So mixer seals, which on average probably run anywhere from 2 RPM to maybe 30 RPM, that's not sufficient speed for the pumping scroll to actually circulate it well in even a 53A. So the 54 is absolutely a leg up. And the other thing is, in mixer seals, boy, they encounter tremendous variation from vacuum to pressure to vacuum, back to pressure, back to nothing. So it really requires some adjustability.
Okay.
And we have a unique feature that I have yet to see in any other system, and that is we have a hydraulic tracking regulator that we can actually reference the existing pressure in that reactor and make our regulator adjust with a 30 psi bias above the pressure. So we're always walking with the pressure that's being experienced inside the reactor. And the reason for wanting to do that is you don't overtax the seal. If you adjust it to where it's the very highest pressure it could ever see, but then it transitions to vacuum, now the mechanical seal is under real stress because of the major differential.
So by keeping that pressure, then you could extend the life of your mechanical seal.
Absolutely.
So that kind of brings me to a story that you shared with me of a customer who, because of the way they misapplied their mechanical seal system, they could only operate one batch per mechanical seal.
Yeah.
Not weeks or months or quarters, but one batch. Walk me through that story and how you solved that.
Yeah, that story started about 3 years ago, and it is a very long story. From our understanding, that situation existed for about 28 to 30 years. They got used to doing a seal repair on this horizontal mixer every batch, every single batch. They needed a seal support system to run in the environment, but they were utilizing a very exotic, high-pressure, large Plan 53A. Every single batch, it got contaminated. Every batch. So that was a failure. We looked at the application and we made some improvements to the seal. We made this an overall project, but we changed out the mixer seal and we changed the strategy from 53A to a large 54.
Okay.
We had about a 55-gallon reservoir, and I think we elected to pump a little bit more flow than normal, around 5 GPM. At any rate, I'm just going to cut to the chase. That all occurred 3 years ago. We've done one seal repair in 3 years on our seal. And the customer acknowledged that an operator actually overpressured the reactor, and it trumped the pressure we had from the 54, and that caused the failure. We might not even have had one failure in 3 years from daily.
From daily. So what a remarkable story on the expertise.
Yeah.
So
I wish they would have had a 5-star award. We might have got it.
You might have gotten it. That we've got the peace of mind of knowing we saved them a tremendous amount of money.
And we've acquired a tremendous amount of business on the back of
the
that.
loyalty factor on that.
Right.
So I'm a salesperson that is in rotating equipment. Maybe my mechanical seal knowledge is not as strong as the team at Pro Seal. What are some of the questions or things to look for as a salesperson when I'm in a discovery situation that would help me to identify the opportunity to have a conversation with Pro Seal?
You mentioned the misapplication of 53s. A good way to kind of back into that is ask the client, are you doing oil sampling on your barrier fluid? Do you know the condition of your barrier fluid? Is it oxidized? Is it contaminated? Do you know? Probably they don't, because most people don't test this. Now, if they start a testing protocol and these are misapplied, you're going to find debris and contamination in the barrier fluid. And that's when you get to say, Probably you could eliminate this by changing from a 53A
To a 54.
because a 54 allows you to polish on every single loop. We run through very finite filters, 3 micron and 6 micron staged. And every time that barrier fluid makes a loop, we're totally cleaning it before it drops back into the reservoir. And you can't do that with a 53A.
So
Just can't do it.
So there we are. We're asking questions on that barrier fluid. Is there any way that Pro Seal, maybe in their past, has had the opportunity to analyze some of this barrier fluid?
Absolutely.
Could we be able to take a sample and send it to Pro Seal?
Absolutely. Yep. Both of our barrier fluid manufacturers provide us testing results on the condition results
Okay.
on the barrier fluid.
And these systems that, let's just say we go down the road where, yes, we've made the discovery that their current 53 isn't really what is to be configured. We want to move it to a Plan 54. We then can come with Pro Seal. We've got not so much drawings, but we've got models behind us of actual packages. And maybe there's a situation where the environment or the conditions need to be changed and customized.
Oh, absolutely.
You can do that with all of your engineering, with all your drawings, with all of the front end work.
We have a tool for that also. We have an application data sheet that when you fill it out and send it back to us, we can go right to an end solution on the back of that app data sheet, irrespective of what you're using. But if you're using a 53A and a 54 would be far more advantageous than on the back of the data sheet, we'll be able to fill in blanks that say, here's the direction you should go.
Would it be possible for our outside sales pros and maybe some of our engineers to loop in the customer through conference calls and Zoom calls to have you walk them through some of the questions they may have?
Absolutely. In fact, if you acquire one of the data sheets and fill it out and send it back to us, we'll assign someone to usher you through the whole process. From picking the barrier fluid to creating the design on the API Plan 54, whether it's something we have off the shelf or whether it's something we feel like that's a particularly stressed application, we're going to build a bigger reservoir, a bigger pump, a bigger heat exchanger.
So as you've created these ECOSAVE Plan 54s, you've tested, you've looked at different motor configurations, different pump configurations, and you've settled on a motor and a pump configuration that basically is just the right application for this.
We feel like we've got a really good combination there. We use Baldor motors. We have a really robust gear pump that has a built-in unloader valve and a built-in non-return. Both of those are very important in a Plan 54. Yeah.
So with the Baldor motor and then the pump, the name of the pump?
It is a concentric.
Okay.
And a Circor.
A Circor pump. So with that
and also a Liwa.
Okay.
So being a pump distributor, we have at our fingertips a number of different pumps that we can utilize, and we use the Grundfos if it's an aqueous barrier fluid.
Okay, so based on the
number
conditions.
Of different.
Okay, so when we're thinking about that, and we're thinking about you've created this, then you can warranty this.
Absolutely.
And then could you possibly enhance or change the warranty based on the requirements of the customer? Or do you have a limit to the warranty?
There could be some flexibility there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Always looking for an opportunity or an angle that would then position DXP as that technical expertise that helps the customer in all of the other things that they're looking at.
Yeah, and let me kind of, because that sounded like I maybe was a little wishy-washy on that. Probably what we would try to do, now we don't necessarily have to be your seal provider because you've already got one. You may have a mechanical seal, and within the scope of that application, that seal manufacturer has created a warranty.
Yes.
And we would create something that runs parallel to that in terms of duration.
Duration.
Now, in these tough applications where companies are they're unable to warranty.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanical seal companies, and let me give you an example. On that particular chemical company that was eating those seals right and left, nobody attacked the system, but everybody came in with their mechanical seal and suffered the same thing. All of the big players made a round here. And when we said we were going to fix it, the engineers there sort of laughed at us. Everybody's had a shot over the 30 years. Nobody would warranty that. It'd get 1 day run. What are you going to warranty? So warranty is applicable in somewhat standard environments where special circumstances like 3,000 psi seawater injection into a oil reservoir. Frequently, you see those run times from 2 months to 6 months. Difficult to create a warranty on the back of that. So it's all relevant, or relative, I'm going to say.
It's all relative as it relates to the application and the conditions.
And we would pick and choose within that scope. If it was a totally problematic thing that nobody made work before, we're not going to just come right out of the blocks and say, here's a 1-year warranty. We're going to work that system.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Now, as it relates to just historicity, or I'm a salesperson and I need to put some backup to everything that's coming out of my mouth, how many EcoSaves are out there today that you would think?
I got to write this down. What did you say? Historicity?
Historicity.
Okay, that's
probably something I just made up, but it sounded good.
It works though.
So my point is, how many of these are out there? So if a customer was looking at us and had some interest, but just wanted to know, is this the first time Pro Seal has made one of these systems?
No, many hundreds.
Many hundreds.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And they're out there, and you've got backlog. And as we open this up, again, we've got shorter
some very
leads.
Elaborate, some very standard, very elaborate keep full systems on 53Bs, 53Bs, 53As. But when you get down into tanks and so forth, it would be thousands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the actual 54s would be many hundreds.
So my point there is, as a DXP sales rep, as you're representing DXP, a company that's been in business for more than 100 years, acquiring Pro Seal, which has been in business for 45 years, the depth and the expertise in this is huge. And our DXP sales pros need to be able to leverage the depth, leverage the expertise, and leverage the fact that we've got hundreds installed in operation today. This is not a one and done. This is not the first rodeo we've been at.
Many hundreds.
So really, DXP sales pros, as you think about this and you think about positioning this allows you to be very synergistic. We have a value proposition to the customer that says, we know a thing or two about mechanical seals. We can solve the headaches that you have. And again, you don't have to do this alone. You've got Bruce, you've got Bruce's team, you've got Pro Seal, you've got 45 years of depth and experience here. Super powerful. Bruce, let me ask you a tough question.
They're all tough.
They're all tough, of course. If you were to go back to a younger Bruce, go back in time and do this all over again.
Can I?
Of course you can.
Okay.
Yeah, in a metaverse, you could do anything you really wanted to. Yeah. What advice would you give a DXP salesperson as it relates to going back and doing this all over again?
Wow. Well, you are absolutely right. That's a tough question. I look at the success that we are enjoying now, and I look at the amount of time it took us to get there. I think I would have put way more effort into doing it faster. We're not a massive company, and we have finite resources. So we went at it somewhat gradual. But with the success that we have now, looking back, I wished I would have gone way faster.
Excellent.
And be even further along than we are now.
And
scaled up and so forth.
Okay, let me ask you another tough question. Let's say that you could bend the horizon, you could look into the future, 3 to 5 years from now, and you're looking at the the career of a technical sales pro, what skills do you think they're going to need in 3 to 5 years from now in order to maintain their seat at the table as a technical sales professional?
Yeah, depends on where you want to reside. If you want to sell mechanical seals and systems in ANSI pumps, probably you can have a fairly standard amount of experience and knowledge to be able to pull that off, because almost everything in that world has been commoditized by now. One of the great things about being able to function in the engineered world of mechanical seals, mixer seals, high energy, toxic, high abrasive, you need to be able to incorporate the proper system. You need to understand how to do it, and you need to be able to see the big picture. You also need to understand the barrier fluid. We're looking at making a whole presentation at a later date purely on barrier fluid. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. We had a customer recently who sent us some requirements, and they said, here's what we want you to build. Okay, we're all about doing that. And we said, do you have a barrier fluid chosen? Yep, we have a barrier fluid. We are constrained to use this. And we went ahead and built their system, and we put their barrier fluid in it, and the pressure went off the charts.
Oh.
Because they had selected a barrier fluid due to compatibility, based completely on compatibility issues,
Right.
without any other impact or any other things being brought into the equation, like what's available. And that high viscosity would not pass at the GPM they wanted to run, would not pass through the seal without creating massive back pressure.
Okay.
The seal orifices, the effective orifice, by that I mean the passages within it, were very tight, and running that big, it was about a 30 weight oil, when frequently what we tend to run is around a 5 weight, an ISO 5. That 30 weight created something like 200 PSI back pressure.
Okay.
Before it even got to the back pressure control valve.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you understanding the seals, understanding the systems, but also having a good understanding of how the barrier fluid interacts with the route of the Plan 54 and the reaction it has at the seal face.
At the seal face, sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a lot of technical that is going to become at us, and I know you don't think that AI is going to replace a technical salesperson anytime in the future, simply for the fact that the way you've articulated all of your experience here, none of this could have been replicated by some large language model. This was all based on,
I doubt it,
on experience and intellect and engineering and all of the things that DXP and Pro Seal has set their course on. So I appreciate the time to get us excited about this. And I know that our DXP sales pros, if they had any questions, they can always reach out to Pro Seal. We can talk to our customers about applications, maybe misapplied 53As and Bs. They should really be at Plan 54. Talk to Bruce, talk to Pro Seal, and we can solve that one. As it relates to mechanical seal repair, in your experience, does the mechanical seal repair, does it travel from, let's say, the West Coast all the way to Michigan?
Travels from China. We actually get mechanical seals from China, large mixer seals that they don't have the technology to repair. We get those seals. Taiwan and mainland China send mechanical seals to us. And we build, see these cute little diamond plate boxes? We build big boxes out of that diamond plate for the mixer seals to be shipped back and forth. Mechanical seals travel very easily and very well.
Terrific.
So that's the answer, but I wanted to give you the...
Absolutely. We can increase our awareness of mechanical seal repair and allow our DXP sales pros to say, we've got a source for this. We can send those mechanical seal repairs to Pro Seal. Not only will the seal be repaired, but we'll generate a report that can isolate what might be the main root cause of why it failed. Now we can arrest that behavior so that we can save them money.
That's so crucial. By being able to see that angle you can bring to the customer a whole nother level of service. You're not just repairing the seal at a nice fair price, but you're getting a forensic that will lead them to, well, this seal could run longer if it were designed like this. It could run longer if it had this system, blah, blah, blah.
You know, Bruce, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase our customers' productivity and
Right.
decrease their
Totally.
operation costs.
Totally.
And you've just given us the solution suite to increase their productivity as seen by the stories you've told,
Mhm.
and decrease their costs, especially for the client that was blowing seals on every batch.
And that particular seal vendor was love and life until we came along.
Of course. They didn't
Yeah.
solve the problem. They just
Yeah.
continued to put Band-Aids on it.
Agreed.
All right. Well, Bruce, thank you very much. And DXP Sales Pros, it's time. It's time to get out there and really experience and understand what Pro Seal can do. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.